Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Culture in the Cross, where we talk about the happenings going on in our church in Raleigh, North Carolina at the Rock Church. We talk about all the things we see on social media and then questions that need answers. So we are your hosts. I'm Artra.
I'm Corey.
And we have a special guest.
We do.
Woo!
We're so excited.
That's right. Hello. I'm Dylan.
Yes. Hi, Dylan. And so if you are new here, please like, share, subscribe. And then hit the notification bell so that you don't miss another episode.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get to know Dylan, everybody.
All right.
We have Dylan Dodson here with us, all the way from the other side of Raleigh. Dylan Dodson is a friend of mine. Met a few years ago.
Yep.
Probably right before the pandemic. And
We've even used his
stayed
church.
connected. Have used his church in the early days of the Rock Church. We had a few services at his church. And so Dylan Dodson, the pastor of New City Church in Raleigh, is here with us.
All right.
Dylan, we're glad to have you.
Yeah, excited to be here.
I am
We're glad
too.
you're here. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little about what you're into, your church, your family.
Yeah, New City
Who
we
are you?
planted in 2017. My long story short is I grew up in the Raleigh area, which I feel like is pretty rare. Most people move here. Grew up in the church, faithful parents, friends, great church. Really didn't know what I was going to do. I really didn't have ministry. I wasn't against it, but it was never crossed my mind. Went to UNC Wilmington for undergrad. Was a music major through a series of events. The biggest one, I lost my dad to a suicide in the summer of between my freshman and sophomore year of college. So there's a number of things there. That was a big thing for me, and I thought maybe ministry might be something I'm interested in doing. Yeah. So long story short, I switched to philosophy of religion at UNC Wilmington. So I thought it was like the first time in my life that I actually did my homework and read the books. I was like, this is stuff I'm actually interested in. And then at that time too, I thought like church planting, and maybe just to be honest, I don't know how much of it, like if we're going to keep it real here, like how much of it was like church planting is because I felt like God was leading me to that, or like that was the cool thing to do. Like when I was in college, it was like that was the thing. I don't know. Maybe a mixture of both. I mean, God uses our context and our wirings. And so my wife and I got married between our junior and senior year of college. I was going to go to...
so young.
Yeah, that's right,
I
21.
did not know that.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow,
We were
that's
21.
amazing.
She actually dumped me. We started
Okay.
we started dating the fall of our freshman year
Let's
of
tell the real
college.
story.
Yeah. So we met at UNC Wilmington. She did not grow up a Christian. She became a Christian right before college. And that summer, she broke out with me. We got back together in the fall of our sophomore year. Wow. That summer of our sophomore year, she dumped me again. We got back there the fall of our junior year. Oh. And I was like, well, the only way for her not to dump me in the summer is to get her to marry me. So that's how that happened. We were going to go to Texas I was going to go to seminary in Texas just to go somewhere different because we're both from the area. And then we decided to stay in Wilmington because the church we were a part of had a big college ministry and the college pastor said he was going to plant. And I was like, I might want to do that one day. Wow. So we stayed in Wilmington for a couple of years, got my master's through Liberty University. And long story short, we thought maybe Raleigh is where we want to end up after all. And so we moved back to Raleigh about 10, 11 years ago now. Worked at Verizon for a couple of years. Yeah. And then I raised my own support. I did a residency at a church here in Raleigh for a year. Started the launch phase in 2016, started meeting in our townhome, and then we launched publicly in April of 2017, so coming up on 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you have 2 kids, right?
9-year-old daughter, 6-year-old son, and that's awesome. We're going to Disney in a couple weeks, so
That's
this is fun.
exciting.
I've already prepared. We've saved. It's like I know this is going to be a waste of money, a lot of money. I shouldn't say waste of money, a lot of money, but they're going to enjoy it, and we're going to have fun together. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Disney in this.
We chose
time.
February.
Oh, it's a great time.
Because it was not hot, and they're missing the whole week of school.
Yeah.
So we chose a week where there's no holidays or teacher work days or anything to hopefully reduce the crowd size a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think when we went, it was like the
went in
very
February.
beginning of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was great.
Good.
It was still very hot.
Okay.
But it wasn't unbearably hot.
Right.
No, it was
80s,
hot,
you know,
and it
Okay.
was
like
still
that, but
very
it was
crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
It was
it's
still crowded.
it's
It's
Disney
Disney.
World,
Right.
so
I think
But you're-
February is on average the lowest attended
that's
month.
good. We
Probably
should-
doesn't mean much,
we should
but
have went in February.
yeah.
Your kids are gonna love it.
Nice.
Yeah, they don't know what to expect because they've never been, so
Yeah.
it'll be fun.
Wow.
Yeah, they're gonna
that's
love that.
amazing, man.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me, you mentioned, listen, we're the culture in the cross, so let's be honest.
Yeah.
What was the deal with your wife dumping you twice? Like, how did you rebound from that into now
Yeah,
being
so
married? Like, that's
she went on with a crew, Campus Crusade, used to be Campus Crew. She went on a summer project to California for the summer, and she came back, came back at the end. Long story short, she was kind of like, I guess she said I was like a little intense, talking about like dating with marriage and whatever. She was like, I'm never going to get married. She didn't grow up with a good example of that. And so she was like, she's a new Christian. She was like, this is like kind of really like serious, So she was like, this is too much. And then we got back together year in. The next summer, I went to Lebanon for the summer, Beirut, Lebanon, with crew. It was awesome. Learned a ton. I didn't call her. She's like, you didn't call me. It was like so in Beirut there was 12 of us, and you had to be with two. You had to go with someone anywhere. You couldn't just go by yourself somewhere, just because they wanted to be safe, whatever. And so like they had these internet cafes, and so I would like. I'd email her a bunch, and she's like, our other friends that were doing like summer projects, like they'd call their significant others, whatever. But it's like it was a little bit different for us. We weren't allowed to bring our computers, and the calling was very expensive. Looking back on it, like I bought this calling card and I called my mom twice. That's all. I called her for 15 minutes, 2 different times. I should have like spent the money and like called her more. Yeah. But even then, it's kind of awkward because there's nowhere I could go to talk to her by myself because there was like 2 rooms and where all the guys are like there. Yeah. And so she's like. You're like, what's up, man? Like, yeah. Pretty much that was it. That's amazing. And so that's how that happened.
Listen, you bounced back from that. Yeah. You bounced back from 2 strikes, man.
When she's not with me and I tell the story, I say she came crawling back both times. But that's actually the exact opposite.
We know the truth.
So yeah.
We know the truth, man.
But it's been great, man. She's been awesome, and New City wouldn't be here without her. And so that's us, man. We've learned a lot over the years. We were sharing before we jumped on. We planted 8 years ago, coming up 8 years. We've always been in our own space, and we're actually moving. We don't have all the details yet. We're moving portable, most likely going to a school this summer because we need a bigger space and we need to spend less money on rent. And so typically, those things don't go together. And so it's kind of funny, man. It's like. Typically, like a church plant journey is like you're portable, whatever, and then you move into a space. Yeah. And after 8 years, we're going the opposite direction in some ways. Yeah. But like here's how I've said it to people. I am choosing to be excited. Yeah. I'm choosing to be excited about it. And I am in some ways, but it's like it's different. And but so we'll see what happens.
Wow. That's amazing, man. Well, we're praying for you, man. I know it's going to go well. I'm very excited for the journey. We definitely went the opposite way. We started, we were in your church for a few months, and then we were in a hotel and into a small building, first building that we're in now, hoping to find a new one. So it is a journey for sure, man. So how does your church function as far as like, I know a lot of churches, I've met other pastors that they have more of like a plurality of leadership. Mm-hmm. Like I remember one church I knew in Chapel Hill, they had 5 pastors at one time that led collectively. Is that how your leadership is structured, or how is it,
so we have elders. New City is non-denominational. We're part of the Acts 29 Church Plant Network. So like we're doing this with other churches, and we've got elders. And how do I like the church language? I would say it's we're elder governed, staff and elder led, and congregationally informed. That's what. So our elders kind of we meet twice a month. Various things, accountability, prayer, that sort of thing, big decisions. The staff also makes like a lot of decisions, a lot of the day to day, and like so we don't do like we don't vote or anything with the congregation, anything like that. But obviously we take their feedback and we share with them. I try to be like maybe overly transparent about stuff, and that's how we do it. Yeah. So plurality of elders, and we've also been fortunate, just always had great elders that have loved the Lord and love the church, and so that's how we function.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. And you're also a podcaster as well, Dylan.
I do. You do all the things.
A couple of things. Hey, I'm just trying to be like you guys. I'm trying to be like you guys.
He has a multiple podcasts.
I do right now, currently.
Yeah. Tell us about all those podcasts. And then pastoring a church and like.
Well, I only work on Sundays for the church thing. Of course. My wife hates that joke. I love it. No, I like. I'm one of those. You put on your calendar, get it done. I'm like a productivity. It's like one of the things I enjoy, and so like efficiency, that sort of thing. So yeah, I do. I've started 6 years ago. I started this thing called the Practical Church podcast. Yeah. And
great podcast.
It was super practical. Then I kind of so I did that for a while. Then I kind of stopped doing it. And then Mission Support, which is a ministry that like helps churches with like, hey, we'll like help run this thing if you'll just do it. So that now it's every other week, so it's more manageable. Yeah. And then I do something called the Dylan Dodson Show, which is weekly, where I just interview people, across the country, hear their stories, that sort of thing. It's just interview based. It's not like a niche specific. I don't know. Just put it on the calendar and just do it.
Knock it out. And then you have a newsletter as well.
I do.
That comes out. Is that weekly or monthly?
The Best Minute, it's weekly. So I've been doing that for like 4 years. It's like, it's productivity and habit building. One of the things too is like after 4 years of doing it, it only takes me about 30 minutes to knock it out and try. I keep a running list of notes on my phone of like ideas and that sort of thing. So I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and a bunch of different stuff. I've also started and stopped things. It's good to like, if you don't like doing something, stop doing it, and then if you like doing something, you keep going with it. And so that's the things I'm involved in now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You
man.
do all the things.
All the things, man. Well, that's amazing. So if you haven't checked it out, Dylan Dodson, the Practical Church podcast, the Dylan Dodson Show, the news. I get the newsletter in my email.
And now Culture and the Cross.
I
mean, I'm on it. So.
Now. So you got some options. So y'all should see Dylan is well-versed, super intelligent, super bright brother that we're glad to have here. And appreciate your time for being here, man.
Oh, for sure,
really
man.
Awesome. So what we got? What we got next?
Okay, so for as seen on social, we got to get the button. So
I know we got to get a theme.
I'm like, we need like a theme song.
That's right.
We need like a jingle.
Patrick has a jingle. I don't like
do,
it,
but he doesn't like it.
Why don't you just sing a little jingle?
That's
Come
what
on.
I normally
Let's do it.
do. I go as seen on social media.
I love it.
Thank you. Look at his face.
Wow. That's
I love
amazing.
it. Don't cut that out now. Yeah, leave it.
So, as seen on social media, there is a pastor named Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell. You guys should like add your middle names into your like title.
Yeah, you're right.
I got a pretty unique middle name too. What's your middle name?
Dwight.
Oh, I like it. Mine is Justice.
Really?
You should.
It's Justus, so it's the name. It's not the word. But
Yeah.
It appears 3 times in the New Testament.
If your name was Justice.
He was one of the Acts 1:23 is the first time it appears. He was the guy who did not get chosen to be the 12th disciple.
Wow.
It was like
Read that
so and so,
again.
also known as Justice, and he didn't get picked.
Okay, yeah.
That's not why it's my name, but
You should definitely go by like all of your names.
well, when people say like when they hear that, they're like, "Oh, your middle initial is J." Everyone's like, "I'm going to call you DJ."
Oh,
Everybody says it,
Oh,
and
no.
right there for the
but I'm always like,
TPC.
"That's fine." Only one friend. I have one friend in college. He was the only one that actually did it.
Really?
Some people
He
say
called
that. I'm
you
like, "You
DJ?
can do that," but he kept it up. He called me
That's
DJ.
actually a great. I would have never guessed it. First of all, and that's a great name. We
Yeah,
have a
that's
Justice at our church
we
as
do
well.
spelled the
Same
same
exact
way.
thing, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Cool, man. I would have never guessed that. I would have guessed it was like Michael or something.
I would have guessed
You look like
Michael,
a
too.
Dylan Michael.
All
also
right.
because like in our age group, Michael was the
I know.
name.
How many
It was
Michaels have been? No,
Michael.
that's amazing.
Michael was the name.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Michaels. Christopher's.
All those, but
Nick's.
that's not your name.
That's
It's
not
just
my name.
Okay,
It's
but anyway.
Justice.
we're off the deep end now.
So Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, he's a pastor of 2819 Church. He was doing his sermon on Sunday and he was having a really hard time. He became very, very emotional because his church has exploded. It's a lot of people. And the neighbors where he is keep calling the city saying that they need to get shut down. So they're always getting calls saying to get shut down. So as the pastors, what would y'all do?
Where does he meet? Like, what is the built?
They
You know?
meet in a high school, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Now, and they started meeting in a high school a couple years ago. His church, he said, when they started this, I think they came back to in person, if I'm not mistaken, after COVID.
Right.
They started. It was about 180 people in a high school,
Now it's
manageable.
thousands.
And within the last 18 months, 2 years, it's gone to. I mean, I think they're in 3 services, packed
Yeah.
out. I mean, I think he's throwing out numbers like 5,000 or 6,000 people coming
wild.
every single Sunday.
People
That's
don't like
crazy.
the traffic. Is that what? I mean, what are they?
I think it's for the neighbors. He mentioned it was the traffic.
Yeah.
It's just they're just unable to accommodate people. They got people in overflow.
Yeah.
So his church has literally gone through. I mean, we talk about you do things about growth. We talk about church growth.
Yeah.
That's something astronomical. I mean, that's 1% of the
That's
1%
like
of the 1%.
yeah.
Right.
That's like unbelievable. That's
From
like almost
180 people to 5,000,
unfathomable.
6,000 is
Yeah.
insane. And they did a large gathering of maybe like in the fall. They did a one Sunday where they had everyone together in like an arena, and it was I think like 5,000 people.
Wow.
So it has it's some type of not some type of but a crazy supernatural move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's known for preaching very direct, very stern, very hey, we need to repent. Not heavy on sin. He preaches the gospel because he's been teaching through the book of Matthew for the last like over a year now. So he's been preaching the gospel, but his preaching is very stern, very to the point. I mean, I think people are kind of drawn to that.
Yeah.
He is in
Yeah.
Atlanta as well, and so he's in a great place to experience that type of move. But when I saw it on Sunday, you know, like you said, he kind of broke down crying.
He
Like,
did.
didn't even preach the message.
Like I think like his wife had to come on stage and kind of like
yeah.
console
And
him.
so because of that, and they're kind of being like forced to, he was saying, you know, we got 30 days to come back with a plan or they're going to put us out. We're not going to have a place. And so I think it went viral because one, he was just going viral as a whole, just for his preaching and his church growing, but also just, you know, the whole situation kind of coming to a head and him kind of breaking down, which is kind of not necessarily expected. I guess the question is like, you know, how would you feel about that? Like, what would you feel?
Like, what would you
if
do?
your church 10X,
You know,
Yeah.
you
It's
know.
like on Sunday now you have like
10X, that's
10,000 people like
something
at
cra-
the
I
church.
I don't, you know, I can't imagine. I do know this, you know, as I was watching some of the stuff last night. I mean, I would not want that situation. However, there is a benefit to saying we have a short window and we have to make a decision right now.
Yeah.
There is like a responsiveness that people will have. So not at all the same. But at our first, so we've been in 2 locations. Our first location was like, we were there for the first 3 years. It was really small, and we were running out of room. We were doing 2 services, but it was like also like super tight. And like this church that we're now in which we're moving out of, it made me think of this. They were like, "Hey, we've got this space available. We're moving out. Do you guys want it?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, they're like, "Well, you need to let us know, or else we're gonna like tell other people, hey, we need someone to take this space for us." So we just told our church that we needed to raise. I mean, this is all relative. Here's what we think of. We had to raise $75,000, and I was like, "Hey guys, we need to raise $75,000. I need to know in 2 weeks what you guys can do, and we need to, that money has to come in over the next 6 months." So if we get that in commitments, we'll say, hey, because we needed to up it a little bit, and we wanted to pay the rent difference for the year. Now we moved in March 2020, so that plan kind of. Anyway, this was the fall, and it was like we raised $118,000 in 2 weeks.
Oh wow!
In commitments, and we actually ended up. There's something you raise and then what you actually see. We actually end up, I think, seeing 110,000 of it. And there's so many like wild stories behind it, and it's like I don't know that I would necessarily say this is how you raise money, but I can say it helped that it was like, hey guys, I mean, there's no guilt here. We're out of room. If we have this money, we'll move. If not, then we're going to stay here. Now, obviously, they're going to like be gone. But my first thought was, other than like, it sounds really hard and stressful. It is, I think, at least people are more likely to be like, let's do something right now.
I agree.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, that might lead them to a space that otherwise they would have said no if they had like all this time to think and to do a big fundraising campaign. It's like, we got no option.
Yeah. I think that, and that sounds like where he's at too. I think his goal, I think they're trying to come up with like a couple $1 million.
Yeah.
And like,
so a little bit different. Just a few more zeros, no big deal.
No, listen, on a side note, I saw Pastor Robert Madu at Social Dallas. He's in Dallas, Texas. They raised like $1.9 million in like 60 days.
This
was from
crazy.
like November, December, and I saw at the end of the year they raised that money. I mean, I think their goal was like 1.5 or something. They did, or I think their goal.
Because I guess
was
in
2.
his context and Philip's context too, it's like they don't need any commitments; they need it. Like, I think they need cash.
Like
they need it now.
Not like over the next year we need to raise it. It's like we need it now. Yeah, that's wild.
It is crazy, but I mean, it can be done.
I think it will be done.
Oh, I think
because I think that like a lot of people will give to the vision, and then especially knowing like we need to do this, and if not, hey, we lose a meeting space, and I can't bring all y'all to my house.
That's right.
So I mean, we have to do it.
Well, I did see that this whole thing was going on too. That another pastor, I don't know the pastor. I've seen him before, but I can't remember his name. His church actually raised like $250,000 for him for Philip Mitchell.
Oh wow!
For his campaign, like after everything that happened last week, this thing was going around, and I saw he had a video up, and like he had people raise money, $250,000, just like that. So I was like, and within like a couple hours, that's what he said. So
that's crazy. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Hopefully, that's hopefully at least in some way they'll get some response because they don't have an option. But I mean, I can't imagine. Like where do you go? That's just
with that many people.
Right.
I mean, it's insane.
I can't even imagine like having just like 100 people and then like 6 months later now we have like 5,000. I'm sorry, where did y'all come from? What's going on?
Right.
Yeah. And
this is too much.
I saw, and I guess on some pushback against a couple of things I saw as I was looking around. Some people were, not that they were upset about it, but some people were a little maybe upset about like the support he was receiving of saying like, why don't we support our local pastors like this? Or,
I see.
Dylan's, he's out of space. His church is not 5,000, but he's out of space in his place. Why aren't we supporting Dylan? Or Pastor Corey's looking for a new place, or 15 other pastors in Raleigh looking for a new, or out of space even, I think, one of the things I want to know, what do you think about that as far as like people being upset about the lack of local support, but yet we're kind of pushing the big name the popular guy.
It's hard. I don't know. This is off the cuff. I think one of the things that's hard is it's hard. I mean, obviously they're in a really hard situation. I think it's difficult if you're like a smaller church to give money to a church that's exploding for them to get into a big building when you're like, hey, we're like a church of 200 or 150 people. I feel like that's part. It's like I feel like it's different if it's like a smaller church who's being run out. Other churches that can come around and help them. Yeah. I feel like it's harder, at least on a human level, to be like, well, let's give money to that when they're like so much bigger than us, and we're the I think that could be. I don't know if that's your question, but I think that could be so difficult maybe for some to be like. I mean, it must be nice to have 5,000 people. It must be nice to have that problem. Which it's hard, but it's like when you're not in it, it's like nobody wants to. I don't know. I can feel people like, well, it must be hard for you. You got 5,000 people. Oh, woe is you. So I feel like that might be one barrier for some. I'm not saying it's a fair barrier.
Yeah.
It's just
I just feel like sometimes when people complain like that, but they would probably never give anyway, even if it was to their local church.
Yeah.
Like the ones that are always like not the most giving or the most loving or whatever, they always, for some reason, what I see, they always have the most to say. Even like when it comes to church about like, well, the pastor doesn't this or do this. It's like, you come once a month.
Yeah.
If that. So like, why are you complaining?
Can I tell you a funny story? Not a funny story. So I know people have different philosophies on this, whether or not pastors should look at giving statements, or whatever. I do look. At New City, I don't like go look at giving, but I have access to it.
Yeah.
And I remember like the first or second year of New City, we had this couple that was with us from the very beginning, launch phase, everything, and they were kind of disgruntled about some things, and the husband wanted to meet, and I actually was going to tell him, hey, like, it's probably best that you guys, I'm not saying they love Jesus, whatever, just like this wasn't working out. And actually went and looked at their giving before we met, and he had never given, never once. Which is, it's not a judgment, but it's like, they've been there from the beginning, they had the means. And it's like, oh, like, if you've never given to this, you're not invested.
Right.
Or I tell people at New City, like, if for those people that are Christians, like, hey, you're following Jesus, you're excited about this thing, man, if you've been here for more than 6 to 9 months and you're not giving yet, I would encourage you to go to a church that you can financially support.
Yeah.
And so I think that's true. It's like some people that like are the most like disgruntled. It's like you're not in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your complaints like aren't as helpful, or because like you're not obviously not invested in this.
Yeah. And that's how I feel about the people you were saying that are like upset. It's like, but you guys.
Right.
You wouldn't probably do anything anyway.
Yep.
So like, why are you complaining?
Yeah.
You're just, it's noise.
Yeah.
That's how it is. People get mad when someone else is getting the light, the attention.
That's what it is.
I don't know if I want that type of attention, to be honest with you. I'm like, I think steady growth would be probably better. Now, if God wants to do a miracle, if God, you think I have the grace to handle that, so be it. But I was literally telling her, I said, I don't know if I really, I'm like, can't say I don't want it, because if God wants to do it, but I'm like, I'm not begging for the spotlight, and I'm not begging for that insane growth, because that growth has its problems as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like being too small and very small and struggling has its problems, absolutely. So, we'll see. I mean, you know more about, all of that than I. I'm just a novice.
Dylan,
So
who
we're
does
all
all the
novices.
things.
So, okay, cool.
Oh, okay. Are we on to our question?
On to the question.
Okay. The question. Okay, it says, how do I navigate being part of a church when I've been hurt by church leaders in the past?
Great question.
Yeah.
Do I gotta go first again? Yeah. You know what? Here's what's hard,
You're
man.
the star of the show.
And I'd like to hear your thoughts on
Okay,
this
you
too.
go first.
Well, let me set this up.
Okay.
Stuff like that is hard as a pastor ministry leader. Just like you guys have seen over the years. Now we're on both sides. Like I've been part of churches growing up, whatever, and so it's like what's hard for me is I really want to know more people's stories, because it's easy to say the church hurt me when like you're the issue. So we've got there's some people. There's over the years at New City, there's been some issues where we're not perfect, where I felt like we handled it biblically very well, and they would say the church hurt them, and it's like, man, sometimes. If you're making wrong decisions, if you're acting a fool, if you're doing crazy, if you're like rejecting meeting with people, talking with people, and then you blame the church, like that's not fair. And it's also, you see this too. It's like some people come to New City, whatever, and they're like talking about the last 4 churches they've went to and they've hurt them, whatever. And it's like, so it's always hard, because I am not at all like downplaying church hurt. Yeah. But I do know on this side of it, like sometimes it's like it's not always how people say.
Yeah.
But.
I agree with that, and like you said, I'm like you. I grew up in church, been in church since I was 1 year old. So, been on the pew and now been in the pulpit leading, and I do agree. It's almost like it's like I need to hear your story. Like, tell me what happened, before I just assume your side. I'm like you. I will say there's been some situations where it's like, you know what, I handled that poorly as a pastor. I handled that bad. I messed that up. That's my fault. But then there are other situations where I'm like, listen, you can cry church hurt all you want. I said what I said, or I did what I did. We handled it, like you said, biblically. I think sometimes, though, and we've been doing we started this Bible study a couple weeks ago about From the Bait of Satan, John Bevere's book about offense. And we've been talking about that, of how, in his book, he highlights in the first couple chapters, there's some people that have legitimately been hurt and have they have not that we have a reason to be offended, but they have a legitimate right.
For sure, absolutely.
They've been legitimately hurt, abused, taken advantage of, whatever. And they are like, man, that was painful. And there are some that think they have been, but it's just, no, you were just corrected. You were just told no, whatever the case may be. I'm with you. I think that it is hard, because when people come and they begin to tell you their story about their last church, I almost like in my mind, I'm like, how long will it be before you're talking about me?
Yeah.
Like, how long will it be? Is it going to be 6 months, a year before you're at the next church telling them how I was bad?
And it's hard because obviously there is also legitimate church hurt. We had a really good friend at New City. They moved away last year. They were with us from the beginning. And this is a little bit oversimplification, but he's always been like, if you go to the grocery store and you have a grocery store clerk is a jerk to you, you don't stop going to the grocery store. Right. Now, I'm not, obviously, there's like legitimate hurt and abuse and that sort of thing. So I would say, if it's like for those that are really wounded, I would say, I'm really sorry. Yeah. But it's, you don't want to give up on walking with Jesus with people. Yeah. At New City, and again, this is different if it's like legitimately wounded, but like one of the things we say a lot at New City is like everybody loves the teachings of Jesus, forgiveness, generosity, grace, view people's, whatever, even non-Christians, like they love like the snippets. We all love them in theory until we have to do them. So everybody loves the concept of forgiveness until you're the one that has to forgive someone that hurts you. Right. And if you're not willing to commit yourself to a community that will let you down, then you will not be able to live out the commands of Jesus. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some times where you do need to leave a church, but there are also some times where you need to, this is your opportunity to live it out. And if you're not committed to a local community, then you can say these things are great without actually having to do them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. So what would you say to, so I guess in practical steps, if a person is saying, no, I've been hurt, but I want to stay or I want to join a new church. Yeah. Like, what would you say to be a step to take for a person who has been hurt?
I mean, and this happened in New City. We've had people who've come in wounded, and I'm sure we have hurt people at New City too. Yeah. I mean, we're human. That's not to excuse it. It makes sense. Okay, but it happened. The conversations I've had at New City when that has happened, I said, listen, we'd love to have you at New City. Like, you don't need to serve. You don't need to do anything. Like, just come. Mm-hmm. And heal and be a part of it, and don't do anything. We can talk, down low and whatever. I think that's helpful. Like if that's you, if you are someone who's like, I'm like really wounded, I would encourage you to go check somewhere out. Be honest with the leadership pastor, whoever at the church, and is it like are they willing to just be there for you instead of asking anything from you? I think that's a good sign of like this is a good place to be. Like just heal, just be here, and we don't want anything from you. While you're trying to take these next steps and get right. So.
Yeah. I think we've seen the same of people that have come.
And they just need time to like rest, really. Just to sit and rest and worship without being asked to do anything. Yeah. Because it seems like sometimes a lot of the people that have come to our church that have been hurt, they came from churches where people wanted more from them instead of just cared actually about their like well-being. They just wanted little worker bees types of things. So then they come and they just need a break. Yeah. So it's helpful for them.
Yeah.
It is.
Then they get a little rejuvenated. Right. And then a couple months later, they're like, I want to be in the media team.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, though. I love seeing people kind of after they've been sitting for a while.
Yeah, like, they're ready.
I think I can sing. Can you? Okay. Or I can greet a third, work with the kids. Yeah. I think it's a great thing to see that growth, someone who comes in, they're like, you can tell that they've been through a lot, or they tell you they've been through a lot, been through this and that. And just, for us, we have this thing where we watch people come. Not all the time, but we see several people come. And it's like for the first 3 months, they're like crying every service. And you're like, man, God, God is working on them, or God is healing, or whatever. Or they're just, being processed. And it's interesting to watch that growth of like after a few months, okay, less tears. And now it's a little more open to the community and then maybe serving. And I think those are the moments of leading a church and really pastoring people that is joyful to see people be healed and to see them come, broken or hurt or experience this and then to just watch that growth. I will say in the pastoring journey, that's probably one of the best things, just watching people be healed and be restored and grow. And it's what makes this really worth it. A lot of times seeing people come from hurtful situations and God will use you or use the community to restore them. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's too. It's like if you've been hurt and wounded, like your story's not over. And if you can heal and rest up, that sort of thing, like there will be other people that have gone through what you've gone through, and you'll be able to speak to them in ways that no one else can. And so. Yeah, it's like your story's not over, and for what you went through, you're not the only one that's going to have gone through that. And so to be able to say like, here was my journey, here as God was faithful, here's the things that I did to kind of move forward with this pain. You could do that for other people, which would be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, man. Well, listen.
I don't. We can take this out. I don't want to take over your show, but I think we did good on time. I would love to ask you, having an outside perspective, about The Rock. Like I'd love to do that. Let's talk about The Rock.
Okay.
All right.
What do you do about The Rock?
Man, so you guys are raising some money. Well, I don't know what you can and cannot say, so I don't want you to spill the beans. So you can edit what you want.
We can say whatever we
So
want.
like, yeah, what's you guys' story lately? I know you guys have been raising money, trying to go to another space.
Yeah.
What's the why, and like, what are you hoping for?
So what I'm hoping for is to find a new space. I think that what I have been feeling for the last year, over a year, I feel like we're almost fishbowled in our space now.
Yeah.
With the way it is constructed, with the one bathroom, so our church is not where we're standing room only.
Right.
But I have felt a sense of it's time to move to the next place. There's not, and we're not about to be put out,
Right.
in the next month or so. But I just have felt us in a really sense in myself, and not just myself, but the leaders of just in a spiritual sense of like, it is time for us to take the next step as a ministry. As going from a hotel to our first building to the next. Not that we have to move, but I think it's been in our heart to expand, and I think that it will. I think that for us as a church, it seems like growth has come after we've taken the step to prepare for the growth.
Yeah, it was like the moment we got out of the hotel and we got to the new place. It was like, oh, hey, new people, how you doing?
And so I'm not saying let's go buy $1 million building.
No.
God is going to
No,
fill
we're
it.
not gonna do that.
But
That's
it seems
crazy.
like where I remember another pastor was talking. He was saying where it seemed like for them growth has kind of gotten ahead of them. And they had to catch up. This church is massive. I think for us, it seems like, and I haven't talked to other pastors about this, but it seems like it's been the opposite. Meaning that not that God can't, bust us at the seams, but I think that there's been an element of like, by faith, let's move into the next place when you sense it's God telling you to move. And I think we've kind of moved on that. So all that to say, we're looking for a new building. We're on the podcast. We're looking for a new place.
Yeah.
We are in some conversations about a place in Raleigh. And so we may be having to raise a good amount of money in a short time, like we just talked about.
Well, there we go.
Actually. So,
But I mean, it's helpful though when you have like, here's where we're going, here's a timeline, like let's do
real
it.
deadline, real timeline. And I think that's a real option for us. So we're very excited about that.
I mean, excited.
I know for Archer, this is anytime we talk about moving and stuff. I mean, Dylan, we started in a hotel. So, and even before that, we were in your spot. We started very humble.
You guys were online too. I mean, it was COVID.
Oh yeah, we were.
Yeah,
We're
so
online.
I always look at this and I'm grateful, because this has been a journey for us.
Yeah.
We started very, very small, one person at a time, and to watch God continue to not growth just in numbers, but to continue to grow the church spiritually, financially, emotionally, leadership, myself as a pastor.
Yeah.
It's been very great to see that journey. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now, kind of about to cross over into the next thing.
Yeah. What's it?
Oh no, go ahead.
So you work, what would you say? 3/4 time, 75% time?
Yeah, about 3/4 of the week.
With the FBI undercover, do a lot of things.
Well, not undercover anymore.
That's right. It's out there.
You blew us covered.
Oh gosh.
I do work about 30 hours a week or so.
So what's that like for you? Like with sermon prep and like all that sort of thing, running the church. How do you balance that? Acting like I'm doing all these things. I'm like, you're the one that's got like 2 real jobs. So.
Wait, so were you ever bivocational?
Not with New City.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's why I say I got all the time in the world.
Yeah, right. No, I think for me, so I do work about 30 days a week. So I work most days except for most of the time on like Fridays, as we're recording this today. Most of the time I may work a few hours on Friday. Sometimes I don't. Most of my sermon prep happens a couple nights a week. So normally I'll take like Tuesday or Wednesday night. Most of the time Tuesday night, I'll get off work at maybe 4 or 5, and I will go to the church and really stay until like 9 or 10. Put in a lot of heavy work that night. Like this is my night.
What are you eating for dinner?
What I eat for dinner?
When you start eating anything, you just doing straight 5 hours.
Fasting and praying.
Yeah.
No, I usually get dinner like beforehand. So I'll
Okay.
go to the church, and I get out of the house. I work from home most days.
Yeah,
so I get out the house, go to the church, spend like 3 or 4 hours, depending on working on that part. And then normally I'll circle back to it. Honestly, like Saturday is when I'll circle back to really finish it out. My goal on Tuesday is to get clearly, what are you trying to say? What's the main point? I'm a point preacher. I'm a teacher, so I'll teach in 4 or 5 points. What are your main points of the message? I want to nail that down.
Yeah.
And then I'll spend the rest of the week, sometimes a little bit Thursday, but mostly Saturday, filling out the rest of it. So I don't listen. And I've been in seasons where I was Saturday night. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But for me, if I can nail down where I'm going, my text, my points on Tuesday, I'm good. I can fill out the rest on Saturday. I can flesh out the message for me. But that works for me because I work most of the week. But then outside of that, Archer does a lot.
Yeah.
She takes care of most of the admin.
Yeah.
I run social media for our church.
Yeah.
You guys' social
but
media is on
mostly-
point.
Listen,
I mean, it
praise
looks
the Lord.
great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, but that's
We like
I like
Being
being
on
on
social media.
Is that a phone? Is it a camera? What are you guys using for like your social clips from Sundays?
A camera.
Is it
Use a
Roku?
camera.
And then
Use a Canon camera. So we
Yeah.
have a volunteer. A volunteer will take clips.
they just give them to you and you edit them. And all
Yeah,
that sort of
edit
thing.
them, post a couple during the week. So I do that. And Archer, but see this thing, Archer does a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
Because she works full time.
Yeah, I do.
And she does admin for the church. And she's over the children's
Let's give a
ministry
plug for your
and
candles.
volunteers for the church.
Oh, my
And your
candles.
soaps,
And
right?
she has a business.
Because my wife orders them. She's like on like subscription. She loves them.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Every few months or so,
yeah.
your wife orders
I'm
some
so
stuff, which is crazy.
excited.
Yeah. What's it called again?
Some more home.
Okay. If you don't know, check them out.
I have a couple orders to pack after this.
But I think that, and all it's about, everyone's got a lot going on. Most
Yeah.
people have a lot going on. Unless you're intentionally
And
just
then we
doing
have
it.
we all have kids
We
and
got
stuff.
kids.
Yeah.
But I think
It's a
for
lot.
us, it truly is, priorities.
Yeah.
We prioritize each other. We prioritize the Lord. We prioritize time with our kids. There are a lot of things that we don't do as a church because I've committed from day one, I'm not gonna lose my family messing with y'all at this church. My wife is a priority. My kids are a priority. So we actually, I feel like us as a church, we run at a kind of a slow pace.
Yeah, I agree.
We have Sunday service. We have Bible studies. We have outreach events every other month, every 2 to 3 months. I've gotten off the worship team. So we actually, as a church, we don't do a ton of stuff because I know, hey, I work by vocational, so there's no point in me running myself ragged. I'm not going to be at the church every night. I can't do that. So I think for us, it's allowed us to just run at a sustainable pace and enjoy the journey and not be in a rush. So I think that's how not that we're balancing more than anybody else, but it allows me to work, handle my church responsibilities. She does her business. We prioritize the kids. We keep the Lord first, and we try to do a great job and we have a great leadership team as well, like 6 people that they handle worship, they handle outreach, they handle the deacons and the ushers, so the media team. So there's a lot that we don't do because we try to spread the weight of the ministry out so that it's not us burning out. But I'm not going to burn out by the grace of God. I don't intend on burning out. I intend on, if I'm doing too much, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna just hand it over to someone else because I'm not gonna lose my mind over this. This is the Lord's church. He's graced us.
You cut me off. You cut me off whenever you need to.
Oh,
no, I'm saying go ahead and cut me off. I got another question. Cut me off when you need to. This is for Archer. So quickly, how much did you preach before The Rock? A lot, little.
I preached. I did preach a lot.
Okay.
I didn't preach all the time, but at our last church, I would probably preach he would let me preach about every other month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then before that, at my dad's church when I was in college, I would preach probably every couple months, and then I would preach on the radio maybe like once a month or so.
Okay, so you got some reps.
Yeah,
but The
so I had
Rock
to
Church
do
was the
it.
first time it's like weekly.
Yeah, every
okay.
single. No, I take that back. No, I take
Okay.
that back. So even when I was in college again, I taught at my first church as well. I led the youth Bible study, so I taught every week for about a year.
Okay.
So all that to say, I had some reps.
Okay, so this might not be as interesting. I was going to say, how have you seen this preaching change or develop over the years since The Rock started? Like, how is he different now than he was like 3 years ago?
It's definitely different.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
different.
Is it better?
No, I think that it's come with growth.
Yeah.
Because starting to preach at like 19, 20 to
Yeah.
now you're like 35, it's just a lot more wisdom. Like you've seen more, you have really just blossomed in like your relationship with God. So like it's just deeper than what it was before.
Yeah.
I think too, though, to that point, and I'm glad there's a difference between preaching every week as the lead pastor or the main teacher than preaching a Bible study or whatever. I do think that for me, it's the benefit of knowing that I'll be back next week.
Exactly.
Like unless I have Dylan come preach, I'm gonna be back. So I feel like I don't have to put everything into this one thing. Like hey, we can have a conversation over this month in this passage or this text or this book. So I think that that's the longevity of it. For me is making me realize that for me less is more. So I'm able to focus, hyper focus, and I realize too because of my schedule, I can't study 20-30 hours a week for this message. Like I have to make the most of my time. So I think that's been a help as well, knowing that if you do great, well, do it again next week, and if you do bad, it's like hey, come back next week and let's make it better.
You've been doing good. I think the preaching every single week, it helps with that.
Yeah.
What about you though? Did you preach regularly, like all the time before? No.
So, I mean, here and there, but like not. I don't have a ton of experience, so I've learned and changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I've improved. I think I've improved. Yeah.
I remember one time I posted a thing, maybe it was on Facebook or something. I was like, hey, I found the old message from 4 years ago, and he like just commented like a trash emoji. He was like, and I think he made a comment like, man, that's
Get
going
that
straight.
out of
He
here.
said, basically like you were saying, if you found one of yours.
Well, we did like 3 years ago. We kind of like cleaned up our New City Church YouTube channel. We do a lot with it. Seen a lot of growth there.
Yeah.
From like 2017 to like 2021, I deleted all the services.
You deleted them?
I said, well, nobody's going back to listen to them anyway, and I'm like, let's just take this down.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so I literally went in there and they're gone.
Get that out of here.
Yeah. Do you preach with notes, manuscripts, somewhere in between? What do you bring with you?
I usually preach the notes like an outline.
Outline, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I do outline. So I don't do manuscript, but I do a full outline of a good amount of my message. I make my font really big, so my outline is like 10 pages.
I was gonna say it's like 12 pages.
Well, so I put it on my iPad so I can read it. You know, I don't need glasses, but it's too small.
Size 56 font.
Right. We're getting older.
That's right.
I have like 20 point font.
Okay.
But I put it on my iPad so I can. Anyways, so I have a good full outline. I have experimented with going like no notes. I've done a few Sundays where I've gone no notes, or I've tried to sneak it one page. This your page, your scripture, your points, just your main to get you started, and then go from there.
Yeah.
So it's worked, but it's. I've heard you talk about this. It just takes a lot more preparation.
I've gone
So
all the way and then back.
Really?
Because
full
I did
manuscript to nothing.
Well, I never really had like a full manuscript. I had a lot of script,
Oh,
and then I got down to an outline, and then I did like no notes for a season. I was like, I just had the verses. I had like the main points, and like that was it in my Bible, and I don't know. And then now I'm kind of like a 75% script person. I don't necessarily like read it all, but I have it there. I got to the point where like when you preach every week, it's like there is something to be said about more eye contact.
Yeah, that's
so that was helpful, but it's like there's just like this like pressure and stress to have it all. Now people are wired differently too, and I'm not saying one's right for me. I was like, no, going back to like I use like the little black notebook thing, and turn the pages, and that's probably about 75% there. I'm not like reading it all, but it's all there, and it just like it allowed me to be like less stress on the weeks, and less like I've got here. I do think, as a general rule, I think the fewer the notes, the better. Just for like eye contact purposes. But now I actually have like probably more. Like I went through this change like 2 years ago. Probably more notes than I ever had before.
Really?
I don't know, for whatever reason, it just like makes me feel better. I definitely have to. I write it out more when I'm doing the sermon stuff, so I like have it more. So I'm not like reading all of it, but like just having it. And I don't know. I've kind of it's like made the weeks to week like less of a big deal. I don't know. I feel just more relaxed on Sundays.
Yeah.
Than having to like trying to internalize all of it. So
I think that I tried the like no notes and like one page stuff just to kind of. Sometimes it's just to push myself.
Yeah.
To say you've had those notes for 3, 4 months, 6
and
months.
too, like,
hey, try it this week with no notes. Kind of stretch myself as a preacher.
And I would say too. I know we're getting up here on time. Like the more you do it, the less you kind of need.
Yeah.
So it's like it's in the early days you kind of prep more, have more stuff, and so now I've got like I don't know, like a 75% script in front of me, but like I don't. You like to add more. Like at this point, I could probably go down to like just an outline and actually be like totally fine. I just got in a certain rhythm of doing it this way, just because like the more you do it, the easier it gets, the more knowledge you have, the more experiences, and so yeah.
Come on, man. You about to be TD Jakes, man. No notes for an hour, man.
That's you, bro. That's you. You're closer than me.
I can't fathom like doing like speaking in front of people with no notes. I'm just gonna stand there and look at y'all.
Yeah.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Right.
All right. Well.
All right.
Glad you're
God
here.
is good, isn't he?
God is so good.
That's right.
All the
Let's
time.
pray.
All right. Bye.
Man. Well, listen, man. Dylan, where can we find you online? Where you at? Where your stuff?
I mean, Dylan J. Dodson is the social medias, and DylanDodson.com is where I like newsletter and stuff like that. That's probably where you can find all the stuff that I do. So.
Nice. And you can also follow his church as well, New City RDU.
That's us.
On the gram, on Facebook as well, on YouTube.
On all the things.
On all the things.
TikTok is back, so we're there for now until they take us down again.
It is back.
For now.
For now.
We'll
That's
see.
right.
Nice. Well, man, thank you so much for being here, man. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
To have you.
Yeah, thanks
Y'all
for coming.
rock church. We're going to see you guys on Sunday for our Sunday morning service.
Yeah.
Catch y'all next week.
See you later.
Peace.